You've reached the Government Center. When it's off, it's on.
Okay.
I'm pretty sure. Nope. I call this meeting to order at 7:01 p.m. on Tuesday, June 9th. As you are able, please stand for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America. It stands one nation under God, indivisible, with justice for all. Actually, if I could ask you all to stand again. I forgot. If you could just, I'd like us all to stand for a moment of silence in remembrance of Violet Edwards. She was a child who was loved, and our thoughts are with her and all who knew her. Thank you. Thank you. Be seated. Do I have a motion to adopt the agenda?
So moved. Second.
Ms. Woods, will you please call the roll?
Ms. Bond? Mr. Trabaka? Ms. Franklin?
Yes.
Ms. Graham?
Yes.
Mr. Hudson?
Yes.
Ms. Parton?
Yes.
Ms. Cass?
Yes.
7 in favor.
Motion carries. We are required to receive public comment on our MOUs with local law enforcement agencies every 2 years. These MOUs are up for renewal this year, and this public hearing is set aside to hear from the community about these arrangements. There are no speakers for the public hearing, so therefore the public hearing is now closed. Our next agenda item is public address. We welcome the opportunity to hear from students, parents, employees, and community members about education matters in this community. As a reminder, the board sets aside 30 minutes to start our public address. We have the option to extend in 30-minute increments, which Ms. Woods will remind us of. If there are additional speakers after 90 minutes, the board will continue with their business meeting and hold one additional 30-minute session at the end of the business meeting. The clock continues through applause and disruptions. The more disruptions there are, the fewer speakers who get to address the board. I will call each speaker up by name in the order that they signed up. Each speaker will have 3 minutes to address the board. The screens will show when the speaker has 30 seconds remaining and when time is up. Please, when you come to the podium, state your name and the area of the county you live in. And the first speaker is Alicia Vaught, and on deck is Bob Beard.
Alicia's in the bathroom. Alicia just went to the ladies' room.
I think she's coming through the door right about now. You're up.
Good evening, school board members. My name is Alicia Vaught. I just wanted to speak tonight about the word peace and how I don't agree with that it's political. And I know that you have a policy for not to let teacher-led political activities or organizations in the school. Is that correct? Okay. So I agree that politics should not be led in the school at all. So if you're not going to let the word pray for peace in the schools because it's political, why are you letting an organization, a political organization, come in that's teacher-led? That's the Montgomery County Education Association. And I say that they're political because they are. They actually endorsed Travis Williams over Jamie Bond this last election. And they also call for gun control on their Facebook page. So they are a political organization being led in, and they're teacher-led. So if there's going to be a policy or a rule against political organizations or activities, then it should be consistent across the board, would be my observation on that. So does that sound fair? To be fair across the board? I mean, if you're not going to let the Levinson's daughter wear a shirt that says peace, then we shouldn't let any political activities go on in the school. So that doesn't make any sense to me. Another thing about collective bargaining is that the teachers, they're being told that they have a seat at the table, or they're getting a seat at the table, but that's not true either, because they already have a seat at the table. It's the microphone and these 3 minutes that everybody has. So for a collective bargaining to come in and say that the teachers are going to get a seat at the table, and they already have that, what are we really doing? We're letting in a political and outside political organization come in to our schools, which is against the policy. So collective bargaining should not be allowed in at all, because number one, your constituents, they didn't vote for a third-party political organization. They didn't. They voted for you. So how are you going to outsource your responsibility to a third party when your constituents didn't vote for that? You know, how's that work? Your constituents voted for you, the school board member, not for an outside organization to usurp the parents' power. We, the parents, have rights. We are the primary shareholders in the schools, because if it wasn't for our kids, you guys would have no business. So I'm just asking for fairness across the board and for you guys to be consistent. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Vaught. Next, we have Mr. Beard is up, and after Mr. Beard is Ms. Kincaid.
Good evening. Thank you for letting me speak. I'm Bob Beard from Christiansburg. We the people, we the parents, we the citizens are trying to get the facts, especially how are the teachers being shortchanged in this county? How come teachers feel like they don't have a seat at the table already? So for the past 6 to 8 years, they've been averaging this 2.5% to 3% pay raise already. They're getting a 5% pay raise this year. So how are the teachers not getting compensated equitably over time? The last school board meeting, Glenn Chilcote called me a liar. I was speaking about this right here. This is a Facebook post that they're talking about the 11 points that they're going to represent teachers so you have a seat at the table. Okay, one was higher wages. Again, they've been averaging 2.5 to 3 points. Well, the union claimed they're going to increase it on top of that 2.5, 3%, another 5%. Okay, so how are we going to pay for additional 5% income for teachers? All we have to do is either have larger classrooms, fewer teachers, or fewer personnel, or more taxes. That's the only way you're going to pay for additional 5% increase that the MCA is promising these teachers. We also talk about having teachers having to pay for items. There's an online purchasing platform that the school system has in place, so there's no out-of-pocket cost to the teachers. So they're getting pay raises, no out-of-pocket costs. Talking about adequate classroom technology. Just got rewarded for being the market leader for all the COVID and the virtual learning. Montgomery County has moved from 7th and 2nd in representation for new schools to be competitive, get new teachers and have better qualified teachers. We moved from, in our region, moved from 7th to 2nd in the last 3 years. So where is the inequity in that? So we're doing that. And as just mentioned before, MCA is very political. They say don't give any money to political campaigns, but here we got on their Facebook post for Travis Williams. Here's Linwood Hudson on their Facebook page supporting him. They talk about doing canvassing for school board members. They got a phone bank for school board members. They got the Roanoke Times saying vote for Hudson for Montgomery County School Board. Okay, so again, if Glenn Chilcote is going to call me a liar, please tell me what I'm lying about. Please tell me what I'm lying about, and you guys need to put a kibosh to the school board. Okay, one last thing. And if Linwood and Hudson and Penny Franklin are tied to unions, they should recuse themselves from voting for the unions in the first place. They should, they shouldn't have the right to vote when they got they got strings attached to unions. So that's all I have to say tonight. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Beard. Next up, we have Catherine Kincaid. After Catherine Kincaid is Christina Fleming.
There is a small elite class of people who is trying to sexualize our children. Yes, sexualize our 5-year-olds and promote racism. Unions will do this here if they get control. It is happening all over the country. Parents must get involved and fight this no matter what their politics. They will promote critical race theory, which promotes hatred of people because of their skin color. People have no escape mechanism from this. Funding needs to go directly to the parents. Unions will oppose this. They already have too much power. On May 14, 2021, the director of the CDC, Rochelle Walensky, spoke with the Federation of Teachers along with other unions and their leaders. On May 15th, the CDC updated the mask mandates and said that all PPL wear a mask regardless of vax status. Research is showing that wearing masks has caused emotional and physical damage to young children. No trained personnel such as physicians, psychologists, and other trained professionals were consulted, but the unions were. This had a devastating effect on children, resulting in suicides, drug overdoses, children falling way behind in education and emotional development, among other things. Even after all of this, the main thing I've been hearing from my months of attending these meetings is that we need to have a union, and very little to none about improving education and the well-being of students. Unions don't care about education, and they don't care about you. They care about control and buying resorts. As a result of this travesty, there's been an explosion in homeschooling as well as alternative K through 12 schools. Parents are waking up and deciding to elect legislators who will promote this. Those who want to get elected will not go against parents. Parents and their involvement can make a difference. We've heard over and over that taxes will not be raised and the unions have our best interest at heart. We're led to believe that this will be free. The county is in the process now of reappraising our properties. The rate will remain the same. Hooray! No celebration though. Teachers, you're promised a 5% raise if you sign on the dotted line, but your home you're living in that is appraised for $250,000 now is valued at $500,000, and most likely the $500,000 is what you will be taxed on because of the prices of housing, and we all know that. Penny Franklin, who is a union leader here, is also on the school board. She should recuse herself, along with another member who has a conflict of interest. She has been on this board for 21 years and now thinks it's so bad that the only way we can improve it is to bring in the union. If you can't do it in 25 years, I say it's time to go find something
Thank you,
else
Ms.
to do.
Kincaid. Your time is up. Thank you. Next up, we have Christina Fleming. And after Ms. Fleming is Thomas Weeks.
Good evening. I'm Christina Fleming, and Sue, I'm in your district in Blacksburg. So I'm going to change our topic of conversation a little bit and ask you to please find a way to continue part-time enrollment, especially at the secondary level. I know at your previous meeting on May 17th, a presentation signified that we had only about 53 participants through the virtual enrollment program and that several families were leaving or were unable to be contacted. This, I think this option of part-time enrollment was an option that many families didn't know about until it was too late to engage. And so I think we don't really have a good representation of the families who may be interested in this. I do think it's a win-win-win situation. When you look at families and students, there's an opportunity to tailor courses and schedules to meet each student's unique specificity. This also allows students who need part-time jobs to support self or family to have more flexibility. And we have all heard the stories about the collapse of Blacksburg High School and those students who were affected by the schedule change. It permits us to meet special needs individually, needs like physical, mental, and emotional issues that affect a child's ability to engage for a 7-hour day. That's long for me. It's probably long for them. I think it's also ideal for families who desire to teach particular subjects at home or have other specific needs. I think it's a win for our community. Those part-time students can engage in local work and serve in our workforce. We all know companies are having problems filling those needs. Real on-the-job training can't be beat, period. We all know that when you learn firsthand, you learn and you can craft that and relate that to a lifetime, and that helps further their career choices. It benefits our community by offering more internships as well. By allowing students to engage, or more students, I should say, to engage in courses taught through public school, we have the opportunity of offering more equity to our students who are not already in public school. And by equity, I'm especially looking at AP and dual enrollment courses that are free to the public school student, but are paid for by the individual families who have had or desire to choose other modalities. I think it's also a win for Montgomery County Public School System. The part-time students still count towards ADAM funds, whether they're a part-time
Christina,
student.
I'm going to have to ask you to stop. I'm sorry.
Okay.
Thank you. Next, we have Thomas Tweaks. Weeks. What do you go by, Thomas or Tweaks?
My wife calls me Tweaks. It's fine. I didn't know they were going to put that on there, though. So my name's Thomas Weeks, also here at Blacksburg. Been here for about 11 years. When COVID hit, our daughter was just becoming a junior homeschooling. We found that the ability to dual enroll or to part-time enroll was a blessing, in addition with the virtual homeschooling. And by the way, Ms. Fleming is right. Behind me, there's 100 other homeschool families that didn't know about part-time enrollment. So it's a real thing. I kind of represent part of the community there. Our daughter took several dual enrollment classes. Like I said, it's not free if you're a homeschooler to take dual enrollment classes. That's a big problem. Okay, first of all, we're paying the same taxes. Okay. Second, her experiences were great. The fact that she can take her homeschool classes and take Blacksburg High School classes, as well as prepare for college, was just a really valuable asset. We really enjoyed that. I was under the impression that it was a new direction that the school is going. First of all, it's a win for the students, and secondly, you're getting additional head count, which comes down to dollars for Montgomery County. So I don't know why you'd consider throwing it away unless you think the participation was low. But I checked with the homeschooling community before I came over, and many of them didn't even know it existed. I'd been kind of guinea pigging myself and letting them know, giving them regular reports on NERFCHI. Some of the other things that kind of bother me a little bit is, besides paying taxes for something I can't use because I decided to homeschool my child, there's also, I donate to the community my time. I'm teaching STEM classes in the morning for anyone in Blacksburg who wants to attend an Arduino coding workshop. And I also work at the Virginia Cyber Range. I'm funded by the state to build a cybersecurity system for educators in Virginia that my kids are not going to be able to use because you're considering kicking this program out. I said that's a real problem, especially since getting a little emotional. Especially since this is the Cyber Range. I've helped build it for your children, but my children are not allowed to go because you're going to kill this program. My wife checked with the Homeschooling Legal Defense Fund. You can't say that, well, we're not allowed to do dual. No, you are. In the state of Virginia, it's left up to the school board in each county whether or not you can do dual enrollment. So it's a win-win. We're getting the word out. Now would be a really good time to build some bridges. That's all I have. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Weeks. And last, we have Robert Barbetti.
Bob Barbetti, Reiner. Let me bring up a new topic tonight, safety. This is not the safety of students feeling they might encounter people who disagree with them or hurt their feelings if they're not given a safe space in which to hide. No, this is the real thing. Think Uvalde, Texas. I'm sure you have some plan in place and train staff regularly to deal with an active shooter. However, I do not think anyone should think that the plan will satisfy any family member of a victim. I understand that some may think keeping the plan and security measures secret will benefit MCPS, which is probably true if every potential crazy in the country did not already know that schools are gun-free soft targets. The better way is to harden the schools in multiple ways and widely communicate those steps. Hardening steps include lock every entrance and train staff to leave them locked and closed. Check every door regularly if not monitored electronically. Modify doors to prevent simply breaking a window pane and opening the door by reaching in. Lock every classroom door from inside during class. Install a panic button in every classroom notifying the building's central office. Designate one locked entrance or an exit for all routine use, with the school security officer manning it. Electronically monitor this entrance. Require anyone entering, other than students and badged employees, to be searched for obvious guns. Hire enough school security officers to staff every school whenever students are present. Arm these officers with a handgun and train them to use it. Set the protocol to tell an armed intruder to exit immediately or lethal force will be used. If no compliance, the officer should shoot. Ex-combat veterans would be a potential pool of applicants. I want them to neutralize an attacker before harm is done. Train every student to leave doors closed. Last, publicize all of the steps taken. This will make it known that MCPS sites are no longer gun-free soft targets. In an ideal world, none of this would be necessary. But until then, we need to take steps to make schools safer from the active shooter. However unlikely you may think this to happen at MCPS, if you do not implement steps, and it does happen, you will not only lose your positions, but remaining in the community will probably not be an option. Therefore, make this your priority. Set aside ideology to get this done. Set aside collective bargaining, equity, pride flags, or any other distractions until this is fixed, done right, and we can all sleep better. Thanks.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Barbetti. That's it. Okay, so, hold on a second here. I just lost my place, I apologize. We are now up to consent items. If no one wishes to pull an item for review, we will consider items approved on consent, which would include all of our minutes. Payment of the bills. Do I have a motion to approve the payment of bills as presented?
So moved. Second.
Ms. Woods, will you please call the roll?
It's the first.
Oh, who?
Yes.
Who did the motion?
Okay.
I think it was Mr. Chewbacca, motion, and Ms. Bond second.
Sounds great. I'll give it there.
Are you guys
Okay.
okay with that?
Okay, great. Ms. Bond? Mr. Chewbacca?
Yes.
Ms. Franklin?
Yes.
Ms. Graham?
Yes.
Mr. Hudson?
Yes.
Ms. Parton? Yes. Ms. Cass?
Yes.
7 in favor.
Motion carries. Okay, next we are up to the business meeting portion of our evening. And we have quite a lot to talk about. Ms. Whitaker, do you want to get started on that, or do I need to? Oh, wait a minute. I'm sorry. Am I ahead or behind here? Oh, this is me. The school board is not scheduled to hold meetings in July of this year. Okay, got it. As a result, we need to grant authority to this. You can tell I didn't look at this ahead of time. As a result, we need to grant authority to the superintendent to authorize financial payments and to authorize the hiring of employees. Does anyone wish to make a motion authorizing the superintendent or interim superintendent or their designee to review and approve payment of the final June and July invoices?
So moved.
Second.
Ms. Woods, please call roll.
Ms. Bond, Mr. Trabaka,
Yes.
Ms. Franklin,
Yes.
Ms. Graham,
Yes.
Mr. Hudson,
Yes.
Ms. Parton,
Yes.
Ms. Cass.
Yes.
7 in favor.
Motion carries. Hiring and appointment of employees before August 2nd. Does anyone wish to make a motion authorizing the superintendent to hire and appoint employees between June 21st and August 2nd?
Second.
Ms. Woods, please call roll.
Ms. Bond, Mr. Trabaka, Ms. Franklin,
Yes.
Ms. Graham,
Yes.
Mr. Hudson,
Yes.
Ms. Parton,
Yes.
Ms. Cass.
Yes.
7 in favor.
Motion carries. Next, grant proposal, Chromebooks and mobile hotspot data plans. Does anyone wish to make a motion regarding the grant proposal?
Motion to approve.
Do I have a second? Ms. Woods, roll please.
Ms. Bond, Mr. Trabaka,
Yes.
Ms. Franklin,
Yes.
Ms. Graham,
Yes.
Mr. Hudson,
Yes.
Ms. Parton. Yes. Ms. Cass.
Yes.
7 in favor.
Motion carries. Title applications. This is the second reading of our federal title applications. Does anyone wish to make a motion regarding the title plans?
So moved.
Second.
Ms. Woods, please call roll.
Ms. Bond, Mr. Trabaka,
Yes.
Ms. Franklin,
Yes.
Ms. Graham,
Yes.
Mr. Hudson,
Yes.
Ms. Parton,
Yes.
Ms. Cass.
Yes.
7 in favor.
Motion carries. Next, secondary ELA and world language textbook adoption. This is the second reading for textbook adoptions for English language arts and world language in grades 6 through 12. Does anyone wish to make a motion regarding the textbook adoptions?
I move for approval.
Second.
Ms. Woods, please call roll.
Ms. Bond, Mr. Trabaka,
Yes.
Ms. Franklin,
Yes.
Ms. Graham,
Yes.
Mr. Hudson,
Yes.
Ms. Parton,
Yes.
Ms. Cass.
Yes.
7 in favor.
Motion carries. Okay, Annie, now we're up to you.
We are. Yes,
Sorry about that. I was a little confuzzled there.
hey, that's okay. Based on the actions taken by the board related to our virtual school program, we are recommending revisions to the policy related to virtual school. Due to the board's July break, we are asking you to waive the first reading of these policies and approve the changes. Information related to these changes has been provided to the school board previously and has been communicated to families in the program. Mr. Husband is here to provide you with more information regarding that.
Good evening, everyone. There are 2 documents in board docs. We decided to go with 2 because the first one that has the crossouts is a little bit difficult to read. So you do have one that has the crossouts with the old language, and then you also have one that just has the new language in red. Are there any specific questions related to this policy?
So I had I reached out I think a little bit earlier and talked with Mr. Pauly today and was hoping to get a little bit more clarification. I think there was maybe a point of I don't know about confusion, but maybe a point of confusion on, you know, we've been getting some emails and we've been hearing tonight from some parents about this idea of the part-time enrollment. That my understanding, can you help me see what we did that allows that or makes people think that that was allowed? Because my understanding was that you had to be enrolled as a full-time student in order to access you had to be enrolled as a full-time student in order to have any access to the Virtual Virginia, even if it wasn't a full-time access to those Virtual Virginia courses. Can you clarify that for us?
Sure. So the relevant point is the very last paragraph under admission of non-public students for part-time enrollment. So 2 years ago, when we were preparing, we had shut down and we were preparing to transition back into the school year in fall of 2020. We had opened up a virtual school program and we attempted to create as many classes and schedules using MCPS teachers at that time. If you remember, we were teaching hybrid at that time, but we also introduced a virtual school program that we promised would be virtual for the entire school year. Because at that time we had a lot of families, we were hearing from a lot of parents and a lot of students that they were worried that they were going to enroll and then September, October, everybody was going to come back. That was a big fear at the time. And so we wanted to alleviate those fears by saying there is an option that's going to be virtual for the entire school year, even as things change over the course of the year. And as we did that, we made an exception to a previous policy that said that part-time enrollment was not permitted within MCPS. Historically, that decision was last made when Virtual Virginia, which was originally established as a supplemental program for in-person students. So a great example there would be if you're at a small school and chemistry and anatomy are both offered third block and you can't fit it into your schedule, or maybe the school can't offer one of those classes due to student requests, Virtual Virginia would use to supplement, and you could give a student a study hall to be able to take both classes. It was really meant to supplement the in-person curriculum. And at that time, the board decided that Virtual Virginia, when they came out with a full-time program, that was not going to be an option at MCPS. I think primarily it was viewed as an opportunity for students to be enrolled and play sports through Virtual Virginia instead of being in person at MCPS. So the relevant policies there when we hit the pandemic were that Virtual Virginia, which continues to evolve and has every year, so we talked about a virtual school program, it's been different all 3 years. Virtual Virginia is the same way. Virtual Virginia was offering classes, they were just offering classes. And if you signed up for 8 of them and you made a full schedule, you were full-time in Virtual Virginia at that time. Most of what our students did the past 2 years was a mix. We put them in as many classes with MCPS teachers teaching virtually as we could, and then supplemented that with Virtual Virginia. For next year, Virtual Virginia has communicated to us that they will be offering 2 very stringent pathways: full-time in Virtual Virginia and supplemental Virtual Virginia, which is what they've always done. So none of this particularly speaks to part-time, except in that as Virtual Virginia has evolved, that pathway to enroll students primarily through Virtual Virginia has closed for us. So if we look at enrolling students part-time, that's been not something we've allowed historically, except for pandemic times. And then B, we've lost our main resource in Virtual Virginia to be able to offer those courses. Any questions off of that background? Just to touch real quick and maybe give Mr. Chewbacca time to think, this policy in summary gives, what it really does is it changes the residential attendance zone. So we had talked last board meeting that the original policy 2 years ago was that we were moving students to Eastern Montgomery Strand where there was capacity for teachers. If we're moving to full Virtual Virginia, capacity for MCPS teachers is not a concern, and we've heard from the board that the preference is for students to stay in the residential attendance zone. It does that. And then it also changes the language that says that we're going to offer virtual school through Virtual Virginia only, and we're not going to use MCPS teachers to teach virtually. And then the third piece is the part-time piece, and that is a cascade effect based on what Virtual Virginia is offering for next school year.
Any other discussion from board members? Questions for Mr. Husband or discussion regarding the change in the policies?
So I will say that I do see the arguments for why we have had our policy the way we did. I understand why we did what we did during the pandemic. And I think for me, this is something that probably requires a little bit more discussion, a little bit more investigation outside of this particular vote on this policy. I'm certainly open to one thing I liked about what we did during the pandemic is that we did, in opening things up for our students to make things easier for families to, attend some classes virtually and that type of thing. We did kind of crack open the door to make things a little bit easier for some of our homeschooling families and things like that. I understand that there are, and it's probably worth reiterating, that there are financial challenges, logistical challenges, and other challenges to doing kind of an a la carte approach to education. But nonetheless, I mean, I'm personally at least open to looking into it, investigating it. For our current times, it's probably been a while since we've looked at something like that. Not to predict how it would go, but just so that the public and the rest of my board members know that I'm certainly open to entertaining it or looking at it at some point in the future.
Nothing?
No,
Okay.
I was
I
gonna
thought-
make a motion to approve.
Okay, motion has been made, and we have a second. Ms. Woods, please call the roll. What is the motion is to approve the policy as is here. Okay,
I have to waive first reading and approve changes to the policy.
okay.
Ms. Bond? Mr. Trabaka?
Yes.
Ms. Franklin?
Yes.
Ms. Graham?
Yes.
Mr. Hudson?
Yes.
Ms. Parton?
Yes.
Ms. Cass?
Yes,
7 in favor.
motion carries. Okay, next, we're going to be talking about live streaming of work sessions. And we've had this conversation kind of on and off over the last few weeks or a few
Years.
meetings, years. Thank you. And so Ms. Drake, who is actually on vacation, is she audio? Is that what we've got her? She's going to be on audio. And Mr. Wickham, I guess you're part of this presentation also? Okay. They have prepared additional information to share with us regarding live stream options. And Ms. Drake is going to, on the phone, walk us through these options.
Good evening, board members and Dr. Whitaker. Thank you for allowing me to present over the phone tonight. I was not able to be at the last meeting where this item was discussed. Ms. Cass had brought up the possibility of discontinuing the live stream as it relates to work sessions. And at that meeting, you asked for a presentation about options other than those that were already presented. I'd like to start with a quick thank you, if Ms. Woods could advance the slide. Our meetings are currently staffed by Midway Production Services. They provide the equipment and staff when we live stream at the PD Center, and they provide the staff for us to live stream in your current location. Brian's in the back right now. Midway's responsible and flexible. They reached out to us when the boardroom was closed for renovation to see if they could offer their assistance. They work to meet the demands of the board. You've seen your microphones change at the PD Center, so you have easier control over the on and off switch. They added a podium to the public address mic, and there were other small changes that they make to ensure that the board is happy with their service. They also make suggestions to us, to me and to Mr. Wickham, about how to improve our operations to make our audio and visual production better. Midway jumped in when we needed help. And as we talk about budgeting for live stream expenses, I want to recognize their contribution. This discussion is in no way a reflection of their work. We are happy with the service that they provide. And with that, we'll move on to the next slide. This one should look familiar. You saw this slide at your last meeting. The cost to record one meeting at the County Government Center each month is already budgeted. You have been doing this for years. You've recorded the meetings for the Montgomery County TV station and put those uploads to YouTube. Continuing to live stream in your current location, it doesn't increase our cost because the renovations that the county did included the equipment to live stream, just like you're doing right now. Our next slide has the additional live streaming options. And I had a chance to listen to that conversation at the last meeting, and I believe I captured the options that the board wanted to consider. There are no perfect options here. And I think that's as hard for me to say as it is for you to hear. It's important to remember that we have attempted multiple low-cost systems, and at the end of the day, board members weren't satisfied with those results. It's one of the reasons why we moved to a professional company. Mr. Wickham and I work very well together to meet the technical needs of the board, and I don't know of two people more dedicated to creative problem solving on a budget. At the end of the day, we're being asked to do more and more without any additional dollars. That includes virtual public address and remote board attendance. These are all great things, but sometimes we get to a point of capacity for what we can hold. You can see here that in order to not purchase additional equipment, we would need to limit virtual public address and remote school board attendance if we were live streaming from a location that is not the room you're in right now. We will also have to accept that these solutions aren't perfect. Often, if there is an issue with a live stream, sometimes members of the audience will message members of the board. And then Mr. Wickham and I are getting text messages from board members to ask us to repair a concern while a meeting is occurring. There are other times where a meeting maybe has been interrupted because of communication that's been received from an audience. I just ask that if the board decides to move forward with one of these solutions, that we accept the imperfections that are inherent in the setup. We always want to try to work to improve any system that is in place, but sometimes it's best for that not to happen while a meeting is in progress, especially when the issue is an internet interruption for the viewer and potentially not an issue with the stream itself. Mr. Wickham provides the equipment needed for these systems, and he makes sure that they meet every need. He makes sure that we get the best quality equipment for the dollars that we have available. The connection to our live stream capabilities and the necessary setup components there are typically handled by me. Again, Mr. Wickham and I are partners as we work to meet the technical needs of the board. I know that this is part of a greater discussion for you, and I'm happy to address any questions about these options as they arise. Thank you for your time.
I'm sorry, what's MP number 2? Help me out with that.
It's the conference room, the multipurpose room that the one that's the big room that we've been in sometimes.
Okay, over on our side of the building. Okay.
Yeah.
All right.
MP2
I'm
is
so sorry,
actually
Ms.
on
Cass.
this-
No,
Oh,
multi-purpose-
MP2 is the one that the Board of Supervisors uses.
Correct, just
Oh,
across
okay,
the hall here.
I take that back.
Conference room A and B are in
Okay.
On
our
our
space.
side.
Yeah.
I think for me, I don't know that perfection is a requirement here, and I've heard that from our public, especially from people who have made good use of our streaming capabilities. I think anything is better than nothing. I think we've got a few good free options. I am okay for now to go with no virtual public address at our work sessions, because I feel like there are other ways, and we still can, anybody who wants to address us remotely can still do so once a month on average. So I think that that's a fine compromise here. So, and I also think that, to Brenda's point about maybe board members not being satisfied with certain things, I don't know that it's ever been presented as a bang for the buck type of thing too. So I think there could be options in the future that we could look at that could enhance things that may also not be perfect, but might still be better than, what we've been doing. But I would be, personally, I'd probably be fine with a single camera system and no virtual public address. I think we can stream. I think as long as the audio quality is good, that's probably what's most important to people. And I think I'd be fine moving forward with one of these options.
I just want to clarify, I think it says no virtual public address or remote school board attendance, so we wouldn't be able to do remote school board attendance either. Is that correct, Brenda?
Yes, ma'am, that's correct. So if a board member was me tonight, you wouldn't be able to call in like I'm doing right now in one of those alternate locations.
I'm sorry, unless what?
In one of these alternate, in one of
If
these
we are in an
options.
alternate location from this room, she's saying if we were streaming, we would not be
No one
able
could
to do
call in.
call-in.
Why is that? So if we opt to stop doing live streaming, then why could we call in all of a sudden?
Because we have the equipment available. So this was about free live streaming options that required no additional dollars. That was what I understood that the board wanted more information on. And so it is about the equipment that is available in the room for us to use, and how, like right now, I'm calling in on a phone line that Brian's in the back pulling into your audio stream so that you can hear me and so that people who are in the live stream can hear me. So we've got a lot of audio happening, right, in addition to your microphones. And then all of that is being pulled together into the live stream that's going into YouTube. And so it's too many points of contact for us to do without purchasing additional equipment in any of the other spaces. They just don't have the setup that the room you're in right now has.
I think where I would be on that, I would never want to disallow a board member from participation due to audio quality or abilities, but I think we should still be able to attend remotely with the caveat that, you know, your voice may not come through all the time on the live stream. I think that's correct. So I don't think it's that big of a deal.
Before you go any further, I apologize. I did have one mistake on this. Brenda, I'm sorry about that. You can do the remote participation at the PD Center. We can have up to 3 of the board members not be present and still do a virtual public address at that system.
And that's what
But that won't be
both-
available till February again. So
Right.
just keep that in mind. We
Oh, that's
can't
right,
use
the
that
PD
building.
Center's closed down, that's right.
But we don't have that same option at our big AB conference room over there.
And I guess
Just want to clarify that.
Yeah,
That's my
and I'm
mistake.
saying that that's okay for me. If it's okay for the rest of the board, that's fine.
So I'm kind of confused. I'm sorry. So I get the in-person streaming, like having us, if we were to come in where you could see us, but with the phone. So if we were going to continue to live stream, we still would not be able to. So because of all the connection, but if we didn't live stream, and could you still have board participation by phone without the live stream, or is that?
Not at the PD Center, yes. In the multipurpose room.
If you're not live streaming, you can have it
If we're
anywhere.
not-
We can work to put, right.
Right,
Okay.
which we,
Because we won't have audio interference then.
Okay,
Right?
so it
we
does
can
have
make
to
sure
deal
that there's
with the
something
live
hooked into a
stream.
speaker.
Okay, so Brenda, so
Correct.
basically,
Yes,
as
ma'am.
far as the board being able to attend the meeting, that the only issue we have there is if we would be live streaming that meeting or whether we wouldn't be live streaming that meeting. Is that correct?
Correct.
Thank you.
Yes, ma'am.
so if we were in a conference room A and B, I couldn't remember if it was conference room or boardroom, conference room A and B, which the board decided to have our work sessions there several years ago with audio. And one of the big caveats for me to do that was that to ensure that we had public address, and whenever we were meeting, in our regular meetings, that the public would be able to address us. In MP2, there's really no room for that. And to Mr. Chewbacca's comments, as far as the audio being clear, if the audio is clear and folks are able to hear us and we're able to participate as board members, we're able to have public address as we normally do in A and B, but just not live stream. As long as folks can hear us, I think that's the important thing. And the cost of what it would cost to be able to make sure that we still have good connections, because we know people will complain, and then board members will say, well, we got to do something better, and we'll end up in the same situation. So we need to make up our minds what we're going to be doing and what is important. Is it more important that we're seen, or is it more important that we're heard and that we can hear the public and that all board members are able to participate?
Mr. Wickham, just following on what Ms. Franklin just said, so the audio, would it be live audio or would it be taped audio?
It could be both at each location.
Okay.
You could stream audio. Brenda, you did check that, correct?
I did, yes. Thanks for
So,
asking.
so basically you do a static screen on YouTube, just a static slide, and you'd hear the audio.
Okay.
And then at both places, we can record as well. And we've done that in the past, that
'Cause in
after the meeting is
past,
over.
we recorded. I remembered when I first joined the board that we were just recording.
From a technical perspective, The PD Center is set up the best for all of that. Conference room AB, we have a little side device that we use to do the recordings. So it's not built into the system, but it still works. The key is a virtual public address Mr. Trebaka talked about. That at the conference room AB could not happen without additional equipment. We could do it at the PD Center as it's built into that equipment.
But not until after February.
Yeah. I'm just
We
talking
keep
about
forgetting that
rooms
piece.
Right.
Right, for those listening, if you didn't know this, the PD Center is off limits to us until February. So it's just like we got kicked out of here, now we're kicked out of the PD Center. So
So I would like to make a motion that we provide audio live stream from the PD Center once we're back in there. And for now, if we cannot use this room for meetings, that we use A and B, where we're able to accommodate the public and board members to participate audibly, right? Did you get that, Morgan?
Second.
Okay.
Second.
Okay. Okay, discussion, yeah, so we're going to have discussion.
Well, I want
Can I
clarification.
have real quick, can I have Ms. Woods read that back to you just to make sure she captured that?
Brenda, while we're waiting on that, could you give me an idea of how many people, do we have an idea of how many people view the live streams?
Sure, you have 35 people on your live stream right now. Your last meeting had a high of 19 people who were watching the live stream. Those numbers do go up once the recording becomes available, right? So you live stream and then YouTube has to take it and convert it into a video that's sitting on their site. And that can take anywhere from 24 to 48 hours. You do have more in your rewatch than you typically have in a live.
I mean, I know during COVID, we had a lot more people watching, but even at that point, what would you say were our high numbers?
I would say your highest live, I used to watch them, the highest live number I saw was 300 at one time, and that was when you were making decisions about starting the school year in the fall of 2020. We saw high numbers again at the start of the school year in 2021, but I don't think we ever hit that peak that we had in those meetings leading up to August 2020.
But even using those numbers, if we're saying 300 people high and we're paying $2,000 each week or each time we do that, that's still a pretty high number per person, per viewing. No wonder my cable TV is so expensive.
There you go.
Okay.
I guess the one question I had, just in terms of this second slide here, like, what are the costs associated with these as is? Like, is there still staff costs? Is there any cost with any of these, or is this all free?
Go ahead, Doug.
There's
Okay.
staff.
Staff cost.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
So, as far as the motion that's on the table, what I still am not clear on and want to clarify, I understand if there's no ability to do virtual public address at the work sessions. I'm okay with that. I'm also okay if somebody, on the rare times that we have it in that room and a board member calls in, that perhaps that board member won't be heard on the live stream. But I think given, I mean, basically 35 people is probably more than we have in the audience here. I think this week I posted on my school board Facebook page a couple of articles and some of my interpretation and analysis. I'd encourage you guys to go read these articles. They were on the Cardinal News Organization, which tends to focus on Southwest and Southside Virginia, talking about some of the remote work stuff that's going on and some of the changes that are happening and how it benefits rural counties more than other counties, and how Virginia is, because of our greater wealth disparity between localities, is in way worse shape. But the message has been clear since, we've kind of gone through this pandemic that, there's a lot of ships that have sailed on this idea of doing remote work or watching meetings remotely and things like that. I think, you adapt or you die. And I think that for us, we need to adapt. This is just as important. I would almost say that the streaming is maybe even more important than some of the other things that we talk about that we say are important. They're all important. I think this is just another thing that's just as important. So I do think we have to stream it. I don't think streaming it and having remote attendance by a board member should be mutually exclusive. It's okay if the quality's not there or if they're not there. I don't think you take away that ability because of, the 5 or less % of the time that something might not be heard. So I'm okay voting for this if it's the will of the board, if we're not going to limit board members from having remote attendance while we do this. I'm not saying we have to solve, Brenda and Doug, I'm not saying we have to solve the technical problem right now. I'm just saying that it shouldn't be a mutually exclusive thing. And that wasn't really stated in the motion or the second. So.
Can I ask a question on that real quick, which is, am I correct in my memory, Ms. Drake, that we had previously recorded the audio and had board members on a phone where we put the phone forward and recorded them in our work sessions?
Yes, none of these options would prohibit us from having virtual attendance and remote attendance while recording and then uploading the audio later. That isn't a problem at all.
So-
It's the stream component.
It's the live stream then? Is that what it is? The live stream audio?
Correct.
Okay.
Only of the live stream.
Yeah, I'm getting a little confused myself here. So live stream, let's use live stream video and live stream audio as two separate things so that we're all clear here. So Morgan, read what you've got, and then let's see if we can make sure we're all clear here.
So what I heard was a motion to provide audio live stream for work sessions from the PD Center after February 1st, 2023, and continue to use conference room A and B for work sessions until then. I do need clarification on what method we will use in conference room A and B in the meantime.
I think she meant the same thing as what we would use in the PD
And
Center.
okay, gotcha.
So live stream audio. So with that being said, Mr. Wickham, live stream audio, does that prohibit us from remote school board attendance?
So I think the sticking point would be whether that audio came through the stream. You'd be able to hear, because we could probably set up a conference phone or something like that where you would hear in the room, so the board members would hear each other. But the quality of that voice being heard out on the stream might be degraded. We'll probably come up with something. We'll MacGyver something to make it work. So, we'll make something work. We're just, as Brenda said, it won't be as professional as a place like this where they've put the money into the system.
Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
And just to clarify, we would be streaming, not just starting in February, we would continue to be streaming.
We would be okay. So we would be streaming here, live stream audio from multi-purpose rooms A and B.
Conference room.
Conference room A and B, the big room. And that would only be our work sessions. And that would be until February. I guess before we agree and vote on whether we say, and then from the PD Center after that, I'd rather see where we stand. I mean, do we need to make that decision now? Because maybe we'll like being in the conference room A and B and not want to go back to the PD Center. I don't know. So.
From the discussions that I have heard from board members is they like being at the PD Center, which quite frankly, I'd rather be here.
I'd rather be here too.
But there was some technical benefits to being at the PD Center. And that was that the quality would be better as far as remote calling in, right? So that's the only reason I stated
Yeah,
that.
but maybe we'll, by February, have something figured out and things will be
we can
better
cross that bridge.
here. I guess I'd rather just, instead of voting, we can decide that later. Vote from February on, we can decide.
No, that's, my motion is, and if we want to change our mind, we'll change it then, but I want to move forward.
Okay. Oh, okay. Well, I didn't say I don't want to vote. I was thinking, do we need to agree? Do we need to vote on February on? Can we, because maybe we want to stay here in February.
No, we need to
I think we need to
do the
do
motion
some clarification.
and see how it
and
goes.
We can rethink things in February. That's, you know.
Yeah.
Whatever. So the motion we have on the table is to provide audio live stream for work sessions from conference room A and B until February 1st, 2023, then from the PD Center. Does that encompass what you wanted, Ms. Franklin?
Yes.
Great. And Ms. Bond, I'm sorry, Ms. Graham, you agree?
Agree. Thank you.
Roll call.
Yes, please.
Ms. Bond?
Yes.
Mr. Tabaka?
Yes.
Ms. Franklin?
Yes.
Ms. Graham?
Yes.
Mr. Hudson?
Yes.
Ms. Parton?
Yes.
Ms. Cass?
Yes.
7 in favor.
Motion carries. Thank you, Ms. Drake. Go back and enjoy your vacation.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, next we have the budget update, and Ms. Whitaker, this
Yes.
is all information that you're going to be presenting to us.
Absolutely. Ms. Miano, our Director of Finance, is going to provide you an update on the budget for the 22-23 school year. As you may know, the General Assembly approved a budget last week, which is being reviewed by our governor at this time. While we strive to provide presentations, when we post our agenda, I do want to let the public know that we've been working diligently on the information we've been getting. We got our last update from the VDOE last night at 5:45 to include in this presentation. So I did just want to make a note as to why this is a little bit later. It's because the vote happened in the middle of the week last week, and we just have to get the information before we can act on it. But Ms. Miano is going to provide you a presentation this evening.
Good evening, Chair Cass, board members, Dr. Whitaker. As Dr. Whitaker mentioned, we're still waiting on the governor to actually approve the budget. So all of the information that's presented to you this evening is based on the calc tool the state released yesterday evening based on the General Assembly approved budget. As a recap, the County Board of Supervisors approved $2.1 million in additional funding for the schools. And then in addition, they indicated they would support providing one-time funding for the purchase of 8 school buses. The additional state funding we're projected to receive based on the General Assembly budget is the $5,466,622. And the overall state funding, not just the additional funding, includes the $3,155,000 for school construction, and then the compensation increase of $1.8 million for the 5%. And then in addition, the state is also going to planning to provide $975,040 for a one-time $1,000 supplement. They're funding their portion of the SOQ positions. Okay, sorry, I just kind of flew in here. The state revenue, again, is the $1.8 million. This funding is provided for the 5% SOQ funded positions, and their effective date is August 1st of 2022. The minimum to get the money is the 2.5%. There's additional information on the bonuses. They're provided at $1,000 for SOQ funded positions for promoting retention. The bonuses have to be paid by December 1st of 2022. And we're still kind of waiting for some additional language based on this bonus. But they're currently encouraging you to use other funds to provide the bonus to all employees. And then they're recommending ESSER funding for the other positions. And I had some more notes on this. I'm sorry, I lost my place.
It's okay.
So our 2 biggest benefits that we offer are the VRS employer paid contribution, or the VRS contributions and the health insurance. The General Assembly approved to maintain the current VRS contribution rates, so the only increase we'll have associated with the VRS is in the raise that we previously mentioned, and that's included in that increase. Once again, health insurance premiums will be remaining the same as in prior years. There is or will be a change to the deductible amount for the high deductible health plan, and this deductible amount is determined by the IRS for a qualifying high deductible health plan. So here's a very tiny spreadsheet to show you with the summary of the self-insurance fund, which we started in October of 2014. More importantly, this chart shows the ending fund balance from each fiscal year since inception. And you'll notice that in fiscal year 1920, the fund balance continued to increase. And this is when everything shut down in March of 2022 for the pandemic. And at that point, a lot of elective surgeries and many other doctor's offices were closed, and so there were no claims associated during that time. We found that once hospitals and doctor's offices opened back up, the claims increased, which then in turn decreased our fund balance. And so this is in part due because of the severity of the claims that came in once people started going back to the doctor. Our consultants have recommended that we maintain a 3-month reserve for the self-insurance fund, and we're currently at about 2 months reserve. And then we're just bringing this for you for information and for discussion topics, and then we'll also bring this up with our health insurance committee at the next meeting. Okay. The school construction fund, as I mentioned, is approved for $3,155,798. Previously, the 1.3 was presented to you for the Chromebooks, which leaves a balance of a little over 1.8 million. I've detailed out on the slide, there's some language that was clarified by the General Assembly indicating that there were some ineligible items, and those are for the last bullet, repair and replacement of parking lots or for facilities that are predominantly used for extracurricular athletic activities. So we're still, here's the next slide. So we're still,
Just a question.
Yes, ma'am.
So the construction funds could not be used for parking lots or athletic facilities
Yeah, we just got that wording last night.
last night?
Yes, ma'am. So here's a list of the potential projects for the school board to consider. It's just a short list for now. We would bring forward other projects to be determined. And then as you just asked, Ms. Franklin, we had intended to bring to you the resurfacing of the track at EMHS, but given the new guidance we received yesterday evening, it does not appear that that would be an approved use of those funds.
Will you go back to that one, Katie, real quick? And so the things that we would recommend for you are the EMHS auditorium lighting system. I was unaware until just like last week when I, was asked to look into these other questions that they have some issues with lighting, which Doug could probably explain to you best, but essentially we can't use that auditorium the way that we should be because we don't have the lighting that we need in there. And so I would recommend, that school be able to use that space in the way it's intended and that we use approximately $19,000. Our estimate on that expired the 31st of May, so we'd need to get a new one, but I don't think it would be much more than what they had given us. So we increased it a little bit for you. Then in addition, Montgomery Central, the reason we can't use the PD Center is that that parking lot is being renovated right now. And a piece of that renovation had always been to ensure that Montgomery Central students had a space, some type of space. They take PE inside on a computer. They do need somewhere to go outside and have physical activity. And so I would like to recommend, if we could, that we could get that $45,000 so that those students are able to have a basketball court as we have told them they would when we took their fields. So those would be recommendations I'd like to make tonight so we could get working on those. And then what we would do is work as a team to come to you with some suggestions and recommendations a little later, once we've had time to digest this, and let you make some decisions about those projects. In terms of EMHS track, Again, our intent was really to be able to bring that to you tonight, too. We were excited to see the email. Well, I don't know if excited is the right word, right, Katie? We were glad to get something late last night at 5:45, but disappointed that that parameter was in there for that. But what I'd like to do, as well as Katie and Mark and I, continue to look at that budget and see, is there somewhere else that we could maybe look at our funds and bring a recommendation back to you later for that, that track. I do feel they need to have that corrected.
So I'm just a little confused. We can do the much-needed basketball court.
Oh, this is why, because that Montgomery Central doesn't have a basketball team. They're not doing after-school sports. It would be for students during the instructional day.
PE.
Right, it's for student use during the day, not for athletics in the evening. And so the exact wording, I can't remember, but essentially it said, finally, not for parking lots, and then not for extracurricular activities.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, so here's the recommended budget. The top portion shows the operating increases based on what the Board of Supervisors had approved, the $126,788,704. So with that money, we would do a portion, but a portion of the 5% raise. We would include the salary enhancements from the $15 for the instructional aides that we did last year. But last year we did it mid-year, so we only had to budget for roughly 8 months. So this would be for the additional 4 months. I think it's 3 months, actually. And then using the salary lapse and turnover up front so that we can put the raise in here. So you see that first dark blue line, that's based on what the Board of Supervisors approved by category, the 126. The next section is going to be some technical adjustments that we have to make based on what the General Assembly has put before the governor to approve. The school construction, the $1.3 million for the Chromebooks, and the $1.855 for other capital projects. The salary enhancement from the prior year, if you'll remember last year, we got additional $1.6 million after the Board of Supervisors approved our budget. And so we had to do a supplemental appropriation for that last year. This is getting it in there where it should be. Then that's the rest of the balance we needed to get to the 5% raise. The fund, the CRSSA positions, that's the $250. And then in light of recent events and the fuel prices continuing to rise, our current budget is about zero for fuel. So we went ahead and included a $200,000 increase for fuel. I will say that this is the first time we've increased fuel in quite a number of years. We've typically had savings from that and have been able to use that to purchase buses. So we've exhausted that this year. And we would foresee that for next year as well. So that's this, I guess technically the third dark blue line, but the second one there that has numbers in it, that would be the revised budget that we would put forward to the Board of Supervisors to include that additional fund that the funds that we'll receive from the state. Hopefully that'll stay that way. So that would give us a total budget of $132,255,326. Essentially, yeah, because that's all the additional state funding. And you'll see down in the far bottom right-hand corner, it's an additional $5.4 million.
Yeah. I have a question on SOQ positions. Yes. I know we do our best and have always done that to give the same percent increase, bonuses, etc. What is the number difference of SOQ positions and what the state gives us money for that number versus how many we have to fund?
So we're currently working on that.
Just rough. Is it at 50%? Is it 40, 60?
Off the top of my head, I'm not.
Okay.
I don't feel comfortable giving a number. Okay. I know that it's nowhere near 100%.
Yeah, well, I knew that. Yeah. Unfortunately, that's a whole nother bandwagon to get on. Okay, thank you.
However, I will mention that the General Assembly did approve to add some of the support positions back into the funding, which is new for this year. They had not done that in the past.
Like nurses?
Yeah, one of them they did was they typically didn't provide an assistant principal for every elementary school. You had to have more than 300 students.
Okay.
And they've actually increased that now that every elementary school gets
A full-time principal.
Full-time principal, yeah.
Yes.
Before it was a half-time.
It's principal.
I did say AP, I'm sorry.
Principal. The standard by the state right now is up to 300, you can have a half-time principal in elementary school, and obviously we have not done that. But now what will happen is we'll get extra money for those positions that we're funding.
But they're still not including nurses and support staff.
I have not seen language. Again, I do want to say, we just got it last night at 5:45, and it was about 45 pages, right? Yeah, so, but I have not seen something that spoke specifically to nurses.
Okay. Thank you, Katie.
You're welcome. Any other questions on those?
I have just a couple notes I would make for the board. You know, I did ask Katie to share with you the benefits information today. I think it's important for us to continue to discuss that and bring that forward. I wouldn't recommend changes at this time, but I do think it's something that we should continue to look at. Within what she's sharing with you, I do think it's important to note, she said that, you know, the federal government is mandating a $100 increase in the deductible for our individuals on our HSA, which is the high DHP plan, right? So that's the high deductible plan. What we have typically done is we have given that extra $100 to our employees. We have not included that in the budget this evening, and so that additional $100 that will be mandated by the federal government in January would increase our employees' deductible. Our plan year deductibles start in January, so they would, you know, I personally am on that plan. So as opposed to me getting my deductible, I would have $100 that I needed to fund myself for that. So I do want to make that, you know, make the board aware of that, as we did not increase the contribution to their health savings account by that $100. You know, we could amend that if the board wanted, but I just wanted to make that clear to you. You know, we do have health insurance increases that happen regularly, and so I just want to let you all know that so that you could make that decision if that was something you wanted us to change. But at this time, we are not increasing the give by $100.
So could you just bring us the figure of what that would be?
Yeah, we could certainly bring that to you at a later time. Do you know about how many are on that plan off the top of your head?
I think there's about 450 to 475 on that plan.
So Katie, going back to slide 4, where you were showing us the graph with the benefits, I guess the self-insured fund balance. Yeah, so looking at that, I don't know exactly when the, you know, pandemic effect hit, but it looks like that number was going up for a while before then, and now it seems to be going down pretty steeply. You mentioned that it's recommended that we have 3 months and that we currently have 2 months. When you say currently, are you talking about the 3.795 million that's there, or the Blue Star with the 2.845 million, or neither?
The Blue Star.
Okay. So so that's 2 months worth, you said?
Roughly.
Roughly. So we need we need to be back up.
We need to be back up around 3 million. 3.8, right?
3.8, roughly. It varies. I've seen a low of 3.2 for 3 months and as high as 4.2. So we're thinking.
Okay. So about 4 million.
Yeah.
High threes, yeah. If we pass this budget as is, what's the expectation on, I mean, is that going to keep falling at the same rate? We don't know. I mean, you know.
We
what I'm
don't,
saying? I
it's really based upon, what happens in people's lives. So I think typically what we would do is we would continue to look at that, and then as we work through the year and we have additional savings, which we do every year, we would bring those to the board and make recommendations. And I would think one recommendation would be to infuse some of that money into this account so that we could get that back up. And so when Katie talks about salary and lapse saving, that's really the only place we save a lot. And so when we found that, we could bring it back to the board, and that doesn't have to necessarily be the end of the year. We track that as we go. So sometimes we might be able to come mid-year and say we're feeling like we could put some money into the health savings account and bring that to you at that time so that we can continue to put a little bit more into that account.
I guess we'll be okay until the next budget cycle.
Well, like she said, we monitor it every.
We monitor it, yeah.
The reason I'm asking this now, though, is that if we get in trouble, we can monitor it, but if we get in trouble, we have to find that money somewhere else, right? Versus if we make decisions now at a budget time to fund it in a different way.
Yes. As Annie mentioned, we start looking in September for any potential savings, salary savings that we'll have for the year, and monitor it from September until really the end of the fiscal year on a monthly basis. The same goes for the self-insurance fund. We're reconciling that every month and verifying how much we have and looking at the claims coming in. We can absolutely bring something back in September if we thought it was starting to not be favorable.
Yeah. As we close out our year this year too, we'll be able, we track this daily too, kind of where we think we are with our year-end money. And so we will also be, have some funds at the end of this year that we can bring back to the board for decisions, of how do you want to spend that amount that we have left. And that could be another way to immediately infuse some money into there.
Okay, thanks.
I did want to note just one more thing. If you go back to the slide with the governor's statement on it, just so, we do want to make it clear the governor's reviewing the budget at this time. So the budget that we're talking to you is based upon the General Assembly's recommendations. These recommendations, the 5% pay raise, all of those are coming from the General Assembly. Just what I think, we've got so much information from the state last night that I foresee that, I think there's not going to be a lot of changes made to K-12 because they put so much work into what they put out to us. I can't guarantee that, but we may see, it said they wouldn't recommend they don't foresee that maybe the governor's going to have final approval for a little while yet still coming. So I don't personally see that that's going to be touched only because of how much they gave, but of course I can't tell the future. If they were to change that, if the governor recommended something different, we would come back to you with any numbers, that were changed, and we'd have to approve a new budget for you. So I just want to make that clear that, if something were to be different, we would certainly accommodate and come back to you with a new budget based upon what came back from them. But this is all directly based upon what the Virginia Department of Education provided to us yesterday and told us to use in our budget planning.
Okay, so at what point are we going to be approving the budget? I mean, this is way past.
Right, so my hope would be that you would approve what we're bringing to you tonight. Then if the governor were to say, no, that is not what is recommended, then we would have to come back and give you a new budget. What we would do, if you go to the next steps slide. So what we would do, and she needs to tell you about school nutrition as well, but we need to get contracts out to our employees. There's a June 16th deadline that is looming, and we have potential candidates who have accepted jobs who we may not be able to keep if we're not able to give them a contract. So what we would do is we would issue contracts immediately based upon the current pay scale, the scale we have in place for the school year of 21-22. Then, once we got the governor's final budget, which would be in line with the one we're presenting today, then we would issue new contracts to our employees, which included the pay raise. But we would not issue them a contract with the new raise until the point at which the governor approved a budget. If the governor did not approve what the General Assembly has brought forward, then we would have to make changes. And that's why the contracts we would issue to our employees are based upon our current pay scales, not the new ones we're proposing, because we can't guarantee money that we haven't gotten yet. So that's why they would get 2 contract notifications, but that would allow us to keep our employees and also not lose the employees who have said that they're coming to us because they are getting these in other divisions. We certainly, too, cannot approve it, but that would mean we would need you to schedule meetings likely in July so that you could come back. But again, we would still need to issue contracts to our employees based upon last year.
Okay, so I'll make a motion to approve the budget as presented.
All right, can we can approve that one and then come back to school nutrition, or do you want to do school nutrition first?
Separate.
I would like to second that, but could we add some more verbiage to help you guys, if that's okay, Ms. Franklin?
We'll see what you gotta say.
Sure. In light of the need to get contracts to staff and the short turnaround time for our staff to accomplish this, I would like to amend her motion that we adopt the budget as presented with the caveat that no changes are made to the state pre-K through 12 budget that the General Assembly is sent to the governor for his approval.
Okay, that, no changes, okay.
Mhm.
I'll accept that.
And I'll second.
Roll call, please. Oh, I'm sorry, discussion. Any other discussion regarding that? Okay, roll call, please, Ms. Woods.
Ms. Bond?
Yes.
Mr. Chewbacca?
Yes.
Ms. Franklin?
Yes.
Ms. Graham?
Yes.
Mr. Hudson?
Yes.
Ms. Parton?
Yes.
Ms. Cass?
Yes.
7 in favor.
Motion passes.
So that next item is the school nutrition budget. This one is much simpler.
Actually, let me just, when I noticed here, there's also a motion for 2022-23 pay plan. Is that's on my schedule here?
Yeah, I think it's because we just got a little off, and we had to add that at the end because they literally had to do the pay plan from the numbers we got last night. So it just hadn't been in her agenda. If you can pull that up.
Okay, so we can do it. We can change the order. I just wanted to make sure we didn't miss something.
That's okay.
I'll flip-flop them real quick.
Okay. So keep school nutrition then?
Yeah, go ahead.
Okay.
So this one is much easier. I believe it might have been presented to you before. The numbers were slightly different. These numbers have just increased based on some feedback from the nutrition group, who's our third-party provider. And it's going to be a budget of $5,175,216. You'll notice a significant increase in the equipment line under the expenditures. Actually, first, let me go back. You continue to see a shift every year from the salary and wages to the purchase services, and that's just reflecting where, as our employees leave from MCPS, they become employees of TNG, and so slowly that salary and benefit number will decrease as the purchase services increases. Now, you'll notice in the equipment line, $100,000. Falling Branch Elementary was without a dishwasher for part of last year, or all of last year?
I think all.
All of last year. And so we have funds available now where they can go ahead and purchase that dishwasher, and they no longer will have to hand wash all of their stuff. And then in addition to that, their point of sale systems that they have at every school where students are paying for or keying in their pens is a little outdated. And it's been recommended that they be
Hold on, let's see
updated.
how, you said Windows 7? Is that, I think?
I can't remember.
Like,
Yeah, I think
so far outdated, yeah. There, Windows XP, there you go.
I was like, it
Yeah.
makes Mr.
Yeah.
Wickham kind of have twitches. So this equipment will allow them to update all of their point of sale systems at all the schools. And the hope is that by ordering them now, that they can get those installed and ready for the first day of school for all of that. Since we know that there are delays in,
Procurement.
yeah. And then finally, the budget for 22-23 is based on these meal prices for 22, 23, and I just realized they all say approved, but they're pending approval from you guys. The increase you'll see is 15 cents for elementary and secondary full price lunch and 25 cents for a full price adult lunch.
And am I correct that we're required to increase by 10 cents?
Yes, I think that was correct.
Why are we required?
Go ahead. I believe those standards are set for us by how we have to increase our meals by, I believe it's USDA. And so they mandate those increases because costs increase. And so with that program, there's certain rules that are in place. We did recommend the extra 5 cents based upon TNG and being able to be profitable. And also, the loss is, we need to get ahead of those. It is kind of a business model. And so the students, again, who are on free or reduced lunch would continue to receive free or reduced lunch at those rates, but these would be the full price meals.
I'll just add to what Dr. Whitaker said. So we do get a small reimbursement, for full priced meals. And essentially they mandate what we must charge based on the reimbursable rate that they provide.
So you're asking us to go ahead and approve this budget tonight?
Yeah, we need a
I think it's on the agenda.
Yes. So can I, does anybody wish to make a motion about school nutrition budget for 22-23?
I'll motion to approve.
Okay. We have a
Okay,
roll, please.
so
Oh, I'm sorry, discussion.
Yeah, that's good. I still have a couple of questions. So this program is self-funded, right? And we went to an outside vendor a few years ago because nutrition across the country was kind of tanking. So how are we doing as far as participation and what the nutrition group, how they're, I just want to make sure.
Well, it's real hard because remember, we've been giving free meals. So we don't have, for the last 2 years, we don't have numbers to give in that way of participation. We've also been funding staff meals as well. And so because of that, it's hard for us to gauge that paid participation because our students have, we've been able to do that. So it's kind of a new ball game starting out next year.
Yeah, to add on to what she said, that they base their budget on their first roughly 6 to 7 months of meals that they had before the pandemic started. And then what they said was they had a high participation rate because meals were free, right? Mm-hmm. So now that people may have to start paying, they hope and they anticipate that some people will start to pay for the meals because they enjoyed the meals. But they know that not all of them will continue to purchase the lunches.
Mm-hmm. We will be able to bring back some of the more creative ideas that we were not able to do during the pandemic due to serving style and grab-and-go type breakfast and things like that. So our hope is that we'll be able to get a little bit more excitement back into our menu that we were also excited about, and it just wasn't possible but both because of purchasing, but because of food service delivery models during the pandemic. They already plan to be at all of our open house events so that they can introduce the foods to parents and not just kids and try to get them excited and have them get some sampling and trying so that we can increase our sales there.
I would just like to add something to that. And this is just some feedback that I've heard from students, and it's very possible that it was happening due to the fact that during the pandemic and COVID of how we were having to present the meals as far as them not being able to go into the lunchroom and that type of thing. But, and I'm not trying to, when we first went with the nutrition group, kids were just, they were so excited. Food's great, cool, I love it, it tastes good, which is all great. But during the last, and I don't know, like I said again, I don't know if it has to do with exactly us not purchasing the lunches being purchased. I've heard that the quality has not been exactly, I've actually had a lot of complaints, mainly coming from the students, that the quality of the food, either the food just was not good or that the portions of the food were just not what they should be. So I'm in hopes that if we go back to having the lunches being purchased, that, we can get that back, because right now I have a lot of not so good feeling with students if they were left on, well, why am I going to start buying lunches again when they're left with the not real good feeling of how the food was when they were getting it for free. That's my only concern.
Yeah, we had a good meeting. The weeks are blurring, so I think it was this week. It might have been, it was last week. We had recently had a really great meeting with them, and I actually, Dana, shared some of the exact same concerns. And, for them, they want to serve those fun and exciting things, and that was a big piece of it. Now, in terms of the portions, that's out of their control. Because I asked the same question. I have a high schooler as well. And I'm disappointed to know that not within our control, but the way they changed the portions, it's really the free fruits and veggies that are going to give our kids more food, because they're able to get that unlimited, and that will come back with TNG now that we're able to do a different model. In terms of the proteins, because that's what I was asking about, the model that is in place right now that we are required to follow, based upon those same rules, I was shocked to learn basically the kids in high school get the same portion size as the younger kids. And to me, that doesn't make sense, but that is the way the model works. It didn't used to. It used to be a different type of nutritional value that you had to rank, you had to do all these menu components to. That is not the way it is anymore. So I believe that, if our kids are fruit and veggie eaters, they're going to get a lot more, but the proteins will stay the way they are based upon the rules that are in place.
I don't understand that, just like you said.
I don't either.
And this is part of the reason that nutrition programs across the country were in trouble, was because they weren't providing what the kids wanted or needed. Mm-hmm. So we have middle schoolers and high schoolers who are much more active, bodies are much bigger, and they're going to be getting the same portion as elementary students.
I was shocked as well, because I was bringing the same concerns from my home. And that piece is out of T&G's control, because we have to give a reimbursable meal, and the reimbursable meal has set rules. Now, is that something that I could ask them, how could we look at it inventively? If we infused money for extra, we certainly could evaluate that, but based upon the rates and the information that were provided from them, we have to give the meals in the set way that they ask us to get the reimbursements back.
Okay, so if we start infusing money, then we'll end up right back in the same
You're
situation
exactly
we
right.
were before.
Yes.
So is this just another one of those attempts to, knock out public education?
I do not know the answer to that question, but I would certainly say it's some questions that we could bring forward to, when we have our legislative questions. We could certainly bring this forward and ask folks to focus on it, but I don't know the answer to that. It is very disappointing, because, even my own daughter, she'll say, I'm hungry still.
Yeah, that's just stupid. There's no other word for it.
Katie, correct me if I'm wrong, but are those regulations, those are federal, correct?
Right.
Not state?
They are.
So we would need to contact congressmen and hit your federal people on that, because do not need to be feeding an adult, or almost an adult, high school male who's on the football team, the same amount of food that we're going to be feeding a third grade. We've got to work on that.
That's going to get thrown away. But the positive side to look at that is at $2.90, if that football player wants to purchase 2 lunches, $6 or less than $6, nobody's going to go anywhere right now and get anything anywhere near $6. And this is a little more healthy, thank goodness. I know that's not the answer, but that's been going on since my boys were athletes in school. They had to buy 2 lunches back then, and it just, it is sad that happens, because like I said, I feel like a lot of lunches get tossed at the elementary ages. So it would be sad, but that's the positive note to it. I still think we offer a phenomenal rate for our lunches, so.
Right, and I do understand that, and the food that the nutrition group has been providing and will get back to has been great food. But with everything else that is being inflated in our country, that's $6 and something to some families, especially if you got 2 or 3 kids, that will add up.
Oh, I understand,
yeah,
but it's everywhere. It's not just us,
Right.
I guess is what I was
Well,
saying. They couldn't go eat somewhere else
Right,
any cheaper.
yeah, my point is, if we are supposed to be providing students with meals, some students may be the only meals that they get during the day, and it's not enough to help sustain them at their age level. What are we doing? Are we putting everybody on a diet? What? I don't get it.
Was there a motion? Okay. I just
Oh,
couldn't
I
remember.
think,
truly.
did we have a
There
motion?
was.
We did have a motion. So, Ms. Woods, do you want to?
Absolutely. We have a motion and a second to approve the school nutrition budget as presented. Ms. Bond?
Yes.
Mr. Chewbacca?
Yes.
Ms. Franklin?
Yes.
Ms. Graham?
Yes.
Mr. Hudson?
Yes.
Ms. Parton?
Yes.
Ms. Cass?
Yes.
7 in favor.
Motion carries. Okay, what's next on the agenda here? Katie?
So because
Oh,
I
she's
switched.
done. Katie's done,
She's
okay.
good. We have the pay plan.
All right, I didn't mean to scare you.
Great job, Katie. And I really do want to commend Katie and Mark Evans. You know, I do apologize that the materials came so late, but we literally couldn't have gotten them to you any faster, and they have been working nonstop since, was it Wednesday when the General Assembly approved that? So, and then revising from last night. So I really want to thank them for that.
Thank you, Katie and Mark.
Thank you.
And so also, that's why the pay plan piece was out of order for us. But what we have for you there, that Ms. Woods, you're good. Ms. Woods is going to pull it up for you.
Okay.
Is our pay plan, and that is with the 5% that was recommended. Again, we would bring back a new one if there are changes, and we will not be issuing contracts with these amounts until the governor approves a salary. But what this does is allows us to get prepared and allows you all to not need to come back again and have another meeting. And so I would ask for your approval of the pay plan tonight.
Do we have it?
You do.
Oh, there it is. Okay.
Yeah, I just have to scroll way down.
Yeah, and this is what you call hot off the press.
Do we need to put a clarification on this, like Marty did on the last one, too?
Sure.
I mean, same concept, right?
Yeah.
You want to go for it?
If you don't mind.
You might be able to copy and paste.
I motion that we adopt the pay scale as presented, and then adjust once the governor has signed the budget. Did I say that right?
Budget approved by the general.
Yeah, perhaps to approve the pay plan as presented.
Contingent upon,
Yeah, that's what I was going to say.
contingent upon the approval of the governor,
Yep.
Okay.
or the governor's approval of the
Budget approved
budget
by-
for,
Educate,
General
pre-K through
Assembly.
12.
There you go.
there we go. There you go. Takes a village. Okay, whenever you're ready to do roll.
Well, we just have
Oh.
to have a second.
Okay,
Second.
Thank you, Ms. Franklin.
and we had discussion, so
Yes, and there's the motion for everyone to see. Ms. Bond?
Yes.
Mr. Chewbacca?
Yes.
Ms. Franklin?
Yes.
Ms. Graham?
Yes.
Mr. Hudson,
Yes.
Ms. Parton,
Yes.
Ms. Cass.
Yes.
7 in favor.
Motion carries.
And so the next piece as well was added, that's the supplemental appropriation. Ms. Miano has provided for you 4 letters, and those letters would be provided to the Board of Supervisors so that the funds that you have just approved, that we can send to them and request those funds. This is a standard that we do each year. She's got those letters ready for you today so that they could be signed.
Motion for approval?
Second.
Okay. Roll call, please, Ms. Woods.
Ms. Bond, Mr. Chewbacca,
Yes.
Ms. Franklin,
Yes.
Ms. Graham,
Yes.
Mr. Hudson,
Yes.
Ms. Parton,
Yes.
Ms. Cass.
Yes.
7 in favor.
Motion carries. Okay, well, we're all done with budget stuff.
All right.
So now we're to strategic plan update. Did you, or is that you, Ms. Whitaker?
Actually, Ms. Widener and Ms. Woodward-Setzer are going to present to you an update on the strategic plan accomplishments from the 21-22 school year and the plans that we would like to implement for the 22-23 school year.
Good evening, board members, Dr. Whitaker. Ms. Widener and I will be presenting the MCPS strategic plan update for you this evening. The 4 objectives, as you can see here, that we will be covering, we'll be summarizing the progress for year 1, providing an update on items that were moved from year 1 to year 2, introduce goals for year 2, and then provide an overview for years 3, 4, and 5. Year 1 goals that we implemented. For instruction, there were 2 goals that we met. One was with professional development, and the Professional Development Committee was established and completed the tasks that were assigned. The strategic lesson plans, the division's expectations were created and communicated, including inclusion, implementation, and monitoring of 4 established tools for student success, all in alignment with student needs and division goals. Poverty, we met 2 goals. One was the Family Resource Center. The Family Engagement Resource Center, or FERP, has been created and is located on the grounds of the Ops Center. And transportation, which we had after-school buses were offered for secondary schools. Now, there is a note that after-school buses for elementary schools were not implemented because a feasibility study has not been taken. There were 3 goals met under equity. The first was the preschool, which increased the number of students served. Equity teams, a division equity team was established and focused on the areas listed above. The revised code of conduct, the MCPS code of conduct, is aligned with the VDOE model guidance. And mental health has 1 goal that was met. Under the learning environment, a master facilities plan was developed. There were 2 areas that was moved from year 1 to year 2. These items, 2 under instruction, was the retention, to increase the retention of highly qualified, certified, and classified personnel, and strategic lesson planning. And then under poverty, transportation, because once again, the feasibility study was not completed. However, Ms. Widener will be talking about these items.
Good evening. Ms. Woods has sort of summarized the progress in our work for goals in year one, and I'm now going to explain our goals in more detail for year two. There are 3 goals related to instruction, as you can see on the screen. Our instructional objective focuses on providing students access to exemplary and meaningful learning opportunities. So one of the most essential ways to provide students access to that is through retention that focuses on increasing highly qualified, certified and classified personnel. In year two, we will do this through a systematic comparison of our compensation plan to other school divisions to make sure that the salaries and benefits that we're providing are competitive with other school divisions in the area. We'll also conduct employee surveys for feedback and collect that data so that we can develop and implement an employee retention plan. We'll continue to develop our onboarding program to support new employees as a method of retention, and we will continue to target minority candidates for employment in order to diversify our workforce. So those are our goals related to the objective of instruction. We will also continue our focus on strategic lesson planning, which is number 2. And of course, that was introduced in year 1. So we'll continue that focus by being intentional in strategic lesson planning, by enhancing that through access to an open bank of resources that will support teachers in creating and implementing multiple options for mastery, demonstration, and assessment, which are key parts of that strategic planning. We'll give them more tools to ensure alignment between student needs and instruction and assessment. Similarly, if you move on to that third goal, empowering through alignment of supports, we'll reinforce our efforts for intentional strategic lesson planning by empowering teachers and instructional teams with resources and professional knowledge to deliver best practice instruction. This means that we're going to focus on providing professional development related to data analysis and PLC team meetings, which should make teachers more effective in using data to provide instruction that address student needs. And we know that analyzing data is an essential part of guiding instruction to meet the unique instructional needs of all of our students. If we move on to our second objective, which focuses on learning environments, our first goal relates to safety and security. And so our master's facility plan, which was shared with you earlier this year, will be reviewed, updated, and shared each year. And this year we'll update best practices for safety and security through meetings with the county and town police departments and through engagement with community experts in evaluating our facilities master plan. Part of the master plan will also include the creation of a measurement tool to assess schools' prioritized needs, recommend actions, assess programs, and update the plan. Our second goal in learning environment is engaging stakeholders in facility access to ensure that appropriate areas are easily accessed by the community and outside organizations. We want the community to be aware of multiple ways that school facilities can be used and accessed. Our plan around poverty focuses on providing each student with resources to address physiological, social, emotional, and cognitive needs. And as you can see, we have 4 goals to address that focus this year. We'll continue in year 2 to implement a transportation goal that seeks to ensure access to before and after school opportunities for all students. In year 1, transportation options were offered to secondary schools as a pilot program for after-school activities such as sports, clubs, and tutoring. In year 2, we are going to launch a feasibility study for the possible implementation of after-school buses at all levels, including the elementary level. And again, the purpose here is to make sure that all students have access to school resources and opportunities such as tutoring, sports, and clubs. Our second goal in this area is dedicated to the establishment of a resource school lead, in which schools will systematize the collection and distribution of information and services to students through a school counselor or designee. And that person will coordinate a process to gather information to ensure that families receive necessary resources. And this could be things like scholarship information, reduced lunch paperwork, school supplies, or other forms of information. We will make sure there is a resource document that's available to students and families connected to the Family Resource Center. And as we do with many of our action plans, we're going to examine our processes around the collection of information to make sure that what we are doing and implementing is done in a confidential, dignified, equitable, and accessible manner. Our community partners goal is focused on increasing collaboration and engagement with our communities. A collective group of community stakeholders will be established to create, review, update, and implement programs and services to meet the growing needs of students. This will be accomplished through our Family Resource and Engagement Center, which is used to house food, clothing, and hygiene products. So that's kind of a continuation of what we started in year one. Some of the other tasks will include the creation of a community resource list, meetings with area community daycares and local preschool programs, and having a single point of contact to help disseminate information and to connect families with that available information. Our focus on community events means that schools will provide accessible, equitable, and inclusive student and family engagement events with intentionality around building relationships. So we're going to survey families and faculty to determine what kinds of and how many family engagement activities need to take place. We'll collaborate with transportation to ensure families can attend outreach events and students can access after-school activities. We'll work to ensure that school events such as Back to School Night are intentional for meeting the needs of the school community. And as we do in many of our plans, we're going to create an evaluation procedure to assess how we are meeting those needs. So those are our goals around poverty. We moved on to equity, which focuses on providing each student with equitable access to resources, programs, opportunities, and learning experiences. This year, we'll provide professional learning opportunities to all school staff on cultural awareness, proficiency, and sensitivity. So this will include training on implicit bias, cultural competence, deficit thinking, poverty disciplining, effective classroom systems, social emotional learning, and trauma responsiveness, all of which relates to needs of our students. Our preschool goal is a continuation of year one, so that will focus on continuing to expand the Virginia Preschool Initiative and local pre-K programs to increase the number of students being served in order to ensure that all children will start school kindergarten ready. In year two, we'll accomplish this through collaboration with the Early Childhood Network of Childhood Agencies, and that will be in an effort to expand access for all 4-year-olds and make sure that they're accessing resources that are needed so that all students who are eligible are actually being served. Our third goal focuses on developing a structured discipline plan, and it's going to be focused on analyzing discipline data and identifying specific interventions to address disproportionality. So this will be accomplished by using a uniform framework to analyze discipline data for disproportionality in all schools, and then providing targeted professional development to identify and implement research-based interventions to address that proportionality. So this might be things like functional behavior assessments and restorative practices. And finally, our fourth goal around equity focuses on continuing to utilize PBIS, our Positive Behavior Intervention Supports Framework, which we introduced many years ago, but we want to continue to enhance and develop that by using school data to provide professional development to employees on how to use that data, how to communicate and teach behavioral expectations, how to be proactive, restorative, and instructive in our approaches to student behavior, and implement those practices with consistency. And again, we're going to review the implementation every 9 weeks to determine the effectiveness of those interventions. That brings us to our last objective, which is mental health. And of course, this focuses on promoting the social, emotional, mental, and physical well-being of each student through partnerships. So we'll collaborate with other community agencies to support the mental health needs of our students and employees. And we'll do this through formalizing partnerships with those agencies, reviewing the effectiveness of those partnerships, making a directory of community health resources available, providing community mentorships to identified at-risk students, and providing mental health supports to school division employees. So that's a lot of information I've given you about our work in year two. And at this time, we have identified and assigned lead staff to all of these goals and action plans. And we actually have a meeting tomorrow morning with those leads so that we can begin to address the action steps, develop timeframes around them, identify data that we need to collect, and identify people who should be engaged in those processes. So do you have any questions related to year two? All right, I'm just going to move on, and the last thing I want to share with you is just kind of a snapshot of the strategic plan. As you know, is a 5-year plan, and so just so you can kind of take a look at what will happen in years 3, 4, and 5. In many cases, we're continuing work that we started in year 1 and 2. So if you look at these goals for instruction and poverty, you'll see that we're building on many of the action plans that we started. Some of the new things that will come out, for example, under instruction, is we are going to develop a homework policy and assess grading practices across the school division. I'll move on to the next slide so you can see equity and mental health, but we'll continue to focus on diversifying our staff. We'll do an analysis of advanced placement and dual enrollment course enrollments to look for gaps in disproportionality that may exist. That may be an equity issue that we need to address. But as you can see, most of our work in the future, years 3, 4, and 5, will be a continuation and enhancement of the work that we've started in years 1 and 2. So, thank you.
Thank you. Don't go anywhere. Penny's got thoughts.
You may not know the answer to this, but what is the cost of providing services for a 4-year-old?
I don't know that I could answer that question. I don't have those numbers in front of me.
Just, and I didn't expect you to, I was just.
Katie, do you have an answer to that? Or a guess, not an exact number? She was asking, do you have an estimate on the cost to provide pre-K per student?
I don't know that per student.
But we can get that for you.
And then you mentioned back-to-school nights. So for a parent for many years that worked an odd shift, back-to-school nights could be very difficult. And I know for many of our parents, it's the same situation. So every now and then they would offer opportunities during the day. So is that something that we're looking at too, to make sure all of our parents can get engaged?
Yeah, I think part of that action plan is taking a look at the needs of the community and making sure that the events that we're planning align with the needs of our parents. So absolutely.
Okay, thank you. And you did say that. Thank you.
And with the cost analysis, the only other piece I'll mention is that when we develop these action plans, we do a cost analysis along with that. So we will be assessing those needs as well.
One more. So as far as looking at a feasibility study for those buses for elementary, when will we have some information on?
So I spoke today actually with Eddie, our Director of Transportation. We're going to begin that work. Again, they're going to start meeting tomorrow. Well, we all are. I'll be there as well, but to set our timelines. I also want us to go back and review the plan from this year, because what he shared with me today is our usership was very, very low. But I do believe that's because maybe we need to market it in a different way. So to me, that's on the top of the list, because we need to get to it, analyze it, and bring it to you all. We're also partnering Mr. Walters with Mr. Husband's going to work on that as well, so that we can make sure he's going to be the curriculum side. We've never done after school for elementary, so we'll need to talk to those elementaries and ask them, what is it you would be offering? What are your needs? What would be the outcome? But again, that's at the top of our list, so that we can get that to you and begin planning for that.
Thank you.
I have a couple of questions, or actually some comments. So I'm really excited about seeing health and safety on here finally. I think that was something that should have been done prior year and given a lot of attention to, but I'm glad to see that it was put in instruction this year. I know we've had some issues with that with COVID, as far as the training and that types of things, where I've been told that students were trying to do their active shooter drills, but we didn't really do the drill. We kind of talked about what we were going to do. We need to change that. We need to get started on that right away, actually yesterday. We need to have very important conversations about SROs and getting SROs in every school, making sure that we have the safety protocol in line there. We need to make sure that we are really putting health and safety up at the top. All of these things are important, but personally for me, nothing is more important than the safety of our children. So again, I know that all of these goals are important, but that one really, we need to be working on that because for the last 2 years, we haven't been able to do any training whatsoever. These kids can be told what to do, but when you don't have any time to think and it's not ingrained to where they just automatically know how to do it, we need to change that immediately. Another thing that I'm a little bit concerned about in instruction is the fact that we have the stakeholder input in some of these others, but I didn't see any stakeholder input in instruction. I know that we've heard from our community and our parents that they would like to have more communication as far as tools that are being used and instructional things that we are doing or curriculums that we're putting out. I would like to see us provide our stakeholders with more information on that, so they shouldn't have to come ask because they are deserving of that right to know what's being shown and what's being taught to our students. So I would really like to have our stakeholders added to the instruction, if at all possible. And my last thing is going to be the mental health, which always seems to be at the bottom of the list, but is always our biggest problem and still continues to be our biggest problem. And we always have one bullet point for that. And honestly, I think you guys are doing a great job because we are just now realizing what a problem it is, but I have not seen much improvement in that because I still hear and see every day of students struggling and students having problems and us not providing the resources we need. So we need to step up on our mental health, and that needs to be at the very top instead of at the bottom.
Just so you know, Ms. Parton, these aren't in a specific order of importance.
That's
They're
fine.
just the categories, that we had
But
available.
I do always seem to recognize that that's further down and it's never really talked about as much as some of the other things, and it needs to be talked about.
Well, I'll just say, as being a part of the strategic planning, and when we had to look at what were the top things that we wanted to focus on,
right,
mental health was key.
Right.
It was one of the top pieces of conversation when we were planning on, as Dr. Whitaker said, there's no order here.
Right,
It's
and I
like,
understand
these are
that.
all intertwined to make sure that we're serving our students. And mental health is something as a nation, as a society, that we need to be focusing on so that we may not have to focus so much on it within our school buildings.
Absolutely.
So I absolutely agree with you. That's a good focus for everyone, but just be assured that when community came together, which included students, parents, teachers, administrators, everyone, these were the top areas that were to be focused on. And if you sat in those meetings and you listened to each group come back together and talk about the goals and the things that they wanted to work on, it was so intertwined, you could not do one without the other. It was an absolutely wonderful experience to see so many people come together and be so engaged and so focused and so single-minded about what's going to be best for our students. So the community involvement was there. There are hundreds of people from our community who have been involved in the process of our strategic plan. It was not just, quite frankly, as it has been in the past years, just staff who basically came up with something and then brought it before us. This was a community effort.
Right, and Ms. Franklin, I'm aware of that. I totally understand that, and we came up with this strategic plan several years ago. In light of that, like you said, not just here, but all over the nation, many things have happened and changed, and we just need to make sure that we're staying on top of things that we need to be staying on top of presently, because we can't see the future. We didn't know back then. We might have said, well, let's make this, before COVID hit, we didn't realize what we were going to be having to do with catching up with instruction. So I'm just saying that I'm hearing things from my community, I'm hearing things from students, and if they're concerned about it and don't feel like they are, getting what they need, or there needs to be something added or more work done there, I'm going to bring that forward to the board and to the people dealing with the strategic plan and let them know that those are some concerns that have been raised.
So, and I'll just say those are probably some of the same concerns, so let's just not, not talk about the elephant in the room, let's talk about school shootings, because that's what we're talking about here.
Well, I'm not.
And no, let me finish, because that's what we're talking about here. And that has been, unfortunately, a reality for many years. Now, let's talk about April 16th in our community. And let's talk about Sandy Hook. And let's talk about all the other situations where children and young adults have been murdered, okay? And everybody in the country is trying to figure out, what do we do? And this is exactly what these folks are trying to do, and they are engaging community to help with that. We have a wonderful relationship with law enforcement to figure out how we do that, and to be engaged with them. It's a great relationship. They meet constantly to talk about what we need to do. You may know more about that than I do.
I do.
Right?
I do know how well engaged we are, and we are very blessed and fortunate in that aspect.
Yes, we are. Yes, we are. But unfortunately, there are so many aspects as to what happens when someone decides who they're going to make a target, and to, it just kind of, it's kind of disturbing to say that we're not doing or think that we're not doing everything that we can possibly think of to protect our students, is, kind of troubling to me. And a lot of that comes from funding.
Exactly.
From funding. And that funding doesn't happen here, it happens outside of here. And unless we can convince folks that this is what resources need to go to,
right,
so that we unfortunately can make sure that our students, because I think about it every day.
Every day.
I think about it every day. Will this be the day? Not just here, but someplace else with my grandchildren in school. And it's sad. It really is. And it's depressing and it's nerve-wracking for everybody in this country to be wondering, is my child going to be safe going to school? And I think it's a much bigger conversation than just what we do as a public school to try to protect students once they come into the buildings or on our buses, who knows where, because things happened everywhere.
So I'd actually like to go back to another point that Mr. Pardon made about mental health. As I read through this, I was impressed by a lot of the details in a lot of the areas, but as Dana pointed out, the mental health area seemed a little lacking to me. And so it's definitely been my experience through some personal family issues over the past year that there's a lot of mental health struggle in our communities. And as we've kind of navigated our own challenges through that and talked to other friends and family, we've been shocked by how many other families are experiencing the same kind of thing, right? It's really widespread. I think we see it through some of the discipline things and behavioral things that come before the board, but just in your daily lives, a lot of folks that you're coming into contact with are struggling. And I think that there's a lot of room for MCPS to help there. Certainly, I know we've got some hires coming up, maybe that might help, whatever, but I'd really love to see MCPS kind of, take more leadership role in terms of helping with some of that mental health support to our students. Our teachers also need their own mental health support as well, right? They're on the front lines of a lot of this stuff, and a lot of times they're having to absorb a lot of these challenges that the students are facing, and they all need more support. I like the idea of community engagement with community organizations, but I'll tell you, NRVCS, which does an amazing job in this community, they are stretched thin.
They are, yeah.
And if that's our primary source, I mean, it's going to be hard. So, yeah, I'm not sure what the answer is there, but I would definitely love to see an increased focus on this mental health section, because it's, it's not getting better on its own right now.
It's not. I would echo that our team talks all the time about the impact of mental health on our students, and if they are not in a place where they're feeling safe, you can't learn. And I mean both safe in terms of the safety we were talking about, but also just within your own being, to feel like you can ask a question out loud, that your classmates aren't going to make fun of you or ridicule you if you just do the actions of being a student in a classroom, to feel accepted, to feel loved. Those are things that our students can't learn if they can't get past that or feel good. That's what I'm trying to say, not get past it, but if they don't feel supported and cared for. And my hope would be both that we're going to bring to you resources, but also that perhaps we could discuss some things that we as a school division could do to prevent some of the things that are occurring. This is Annie Whitaker as a person saying, I think that there's a lot that impacts our kids' mental health by allowing them to have their cell phones during the school day. And I know that is not a popular conversation, and I'm okay being unpopular, but what I would say to you is our kids are not being able to focus on what they are doing because they are living in two worlds at the same time, and one of them is not real, and they don't necessarily realize that. And so I know that's maybe biting off more than we can chew for today, but what I'm trying to say is I think there's services already out there that we need to look at and try to bring together, but I think we also need to be inventive in what is it that we as the adults need to do to help our kids, and are there other measures we can take and set the stance, as Ms. Parton said, to do something a little different and shift that tide for our students.
One of the things that I have been thinking about is having a space for our students to be able to talk to each other about what they're dealing with and what they're thinking about and how they're able to cope, and what they need from us. But this is something that I've heard from several of our students, is like a safe space where they can have conversations among themselves, supervised to a certain degree, but to be able to say how they're feeling and why. Because like you said, sometimes it's very hard for students to be seen as weak. Mm-hmm. And unfortunately, it's not being weak, it's being human.
That's right. Thank you, ladies.
Thank you, Amanda and Guyleen. Okay. Good conversation, important stuff. Next up is the superintendent search. So, I want to just give everybody an update of where we are right now in our superintendent search. Many of you know that emails went out recently and postings have been out regarding the survey that is available for everyone to fill out if they would like to. We have already had, as of yesterday, I believe this number was 1,036 people had already filled out the survey as of yesterday. So I'm guessing today it's probably up even higher. Morgan, I don't know if you haven't seen the numbers. So I'm going to guess we're probably, they're steadily climbing. We are also going to be having sessions for our stakeholders to participate in with GR Recruiting, the firm that is doing our search. We've sent out information regarding these stakeholder meetings for people to provide input to GR Recruiting on what they would like to see in a superintendent. Now I'm going to give a little, this is sort of a side note on that whole item. I've heard some concerns about what we've set up because it's all in 1 week. And that is unfortunate because I realize people go on vacations, people aren't around, kids are at camps. I understand that. But we already are very behind in the timing of this search. And if we don't move quickly, we are going to lose some good candidates. As anybody who has listened to Gary Ray speak at the last meeting, it's a limited pool, and we can't just wait and take weeks to get information and get moving. We need to move quickly. So, the timing in the perfect world, where a superintendent resigns and we have adequate notice, we'd have several weeks to do this. We'd have a lot of time to do a search. But unfortunately, circumstances didn't allow that to happen. And as a board, we would never have chosen to begin our superintendent search in May. That was not an option that we had planned on. I apologize that this may be inconvenient for some people, but I hope that many of you will join one of these stakeholder meetings. The representatives, there are going to be 2 representatives from GR Recruiting, and they are going to be going to each high school in our strand to meet with any teachers, administrators, students, staff, and then in the evening, an open public forum for any parents, and then any individuals in the community are able to come to those forums. I realize that the timing is short for each of these, and I'm not sure if we'll go over. We've asked that there be 2 people there just in case some groups go longer than others. So it is, yes, an aggressive schedule, but it's what we need to do to get done what we need to get done, and so we can find the best available candidate to lead our schools. So that if you have any questions regarding this schedule, feel free to reach out to me. Brenda is on vacation this week, and she is assisting with putting this together, as well as she and I have been working closely with GR Recruiting to do this. But feel free to shoot me an email if you have a particular question or concern, and I will try my best to get back to you regarding it. But hopefully, those of you who are out there and listening, will be able to join us at one of these meetings. I don't know if anybody on the board has anything they want to add to that.
Question.
Sure.
So I'm loving seeing our students having a time frame to themselves. And more than likely, the ones that would actually come for input would be the older children who could probably drive. But in case they can't, and mom and dad are at work, and Christiansburg's is at 9:30 to 10:15.
Right.
And then all the rest of them are before 5. Do we have any plan to try to help students if they want to come and do not have a way there?
No, we do not have a plan. And I know it's unfortunate. It would have been nice to be doing this during the school year, so we could do this when students were in school and we didn't have to do it during the summertime when students are home. But they are home, and if we set it up in the evening, they can also come to the public forum in the evening if their parents want. Students are allowed to go. It's not as though it has to be, anyone can go to the evening public forums.
Okay. So I just didn't know if that had been discussed at all as far as, because they would really be the only ones that really wouldn't probably have as much opportunity to transportation as others would be.
A lot of back and forth and discussion around this schedule and trying to make it as convenient for community as possible, because I had some concerns about the times too.
Yeah.
But unless we had, as Ms. Cass said, if we had a whole week and we had multiple folks coming in and out to be able to have meetings at all times during the day and night, that's what we would do. But unfortunately, this is the best schedule. And when I say it was many phone calls and emails and back and forth about how we make this, and then also including the board, to see if this would work, but it's not ideal. But it's what we have at this point.
So any students who can't make it to their time frame for whichever one, just encourage them to come possibly to the evening. open forum.
Absolutely, absolutely. Anyone can come to the open public
Yeah,
forum.
anybody, yeah. And I would really encourage, I'd love to have some input from our elementary students.
Yeah, I
So
would too.
If their parents could be able to bring them out.
And they're relatively early in the, well, I guess 7:30, 8:30 is a little late, but it is summer, but, it's tough to, also, there are cost factors too, as we bring people in from the research firm, travel expenses and everything. And so if we were to expand this out over, many days, we would be really piling up the expenses. So we were trying to, be fiscally responsible also. So, like I said, I realize there's people who aren't happy, and we've done the best that we can with what we've got to work with. So I still think we will get some really good input, especially since we've already have over 1,000 or more surveys filled out.
So please help pass the word and send any groups or churches or whatever you're involved with this information and about the online survey.
Any other thoughts, comments? Anybody? Okay. So now we're moving on to Dr. Whitaker. Do you have any updates for us?
I know I'm loud, but I need that mic on anyways. Just two updates for you. So our summer academies and our camp invention are up and running in full swing, and so we're really excited about that. I would like to give a big thanks to all of our team members who have worked so hard to pull this together. That's from facilities, transportation, to our curriculum team. It was really a collaborative effort to get this going. So I'd like to thank them for that, because this is a great enhancement opportunity for our students. I don't know the total number, and I'm sorry I didn't ask you guys that off the top of our head. I know we have 100 kids in Camp Invention. And Barbara or Carl, do you have an idea of the number of students? 850 elementary students and a smaller number in our secondary levels, but a significant number of students being served in our programs this summer, and so we're really excited about that. And then the last thing I would say is the Western Virginia Public Education Consortium, that's called WEVPEC. It's a group it's a regional group from Western Virginia of different school divisions, and we all work together. And so each summer for the last 5 summers, they've had an annual Hot Topics Leadership Conference, and this year we were asked to host that. So we're hosting that at Auburn High School on June 21st, and they have invited the State Superintendent of Public Instruction, Ms. Jillian Ballo, to be their speaker, and at this time, they do think she's going to be able to come, so I just wanted to let you all know that, and also make our public aware of that we're really excited to be able to be hosting that opportunity for the area.
Okay, thank you, Dr. Whitaker. So we are now to unfinished business. Are there any items? I don't believe there's any items of unfinished business. Is there anything? Do we have any items of new business? Okay. Anyone have any announcements they would like to make? Okay, we're moving along here, aren't we? Upcoming school board meetings. So we have a meeting. Our retreat is on June 21st. I don't think we've determined where that's going to be at. Have we decided?
I don't think it's been officially decided, but it is in the works.
Okay.
Definitely.
I don't think.
And we'll get that information to you all as soon as we can.
So, we do have some things on the an agenda being put together, and hopefully we can make some real good, useful time of that together. If you guys have anything you want to cover, let us know. So we are where Brendan is helping and Morgan are helping put that together.
Remind folks that 4 hours of that meeting will be with our consultants.
Yes. Yeah. So it will be a full day. 4 hours are going to be with the search firm, and they will be discussing the survey with us, correct? Let's see if there's anything else upcoming on the agenda. I didn't have it up in front of me right now. Okay, here we go. So, and then we don't have another meeting until July 28th, which is a closed session for the superintendent search. So make sure you have that on your calendars, everyone, on the board. And then on August 2nd, we will be back here for our beginning of the year meeting. We'll have another update on the super search, hopefully some real progress, the super search.
So, and I keep getting this confused with some of the dates and things that went back and forth at our last meeting. So on the 18th, did that meeting go away and get deferred to the 21st?
Yes.
Yeah, okay. That's ingrained in my brain for some reason. I need to get it out.
And then also, I guess we have a GAC committee update coming up in August and collective bargaining first reading. So, okay. Well, then, do I have a motion to enter into closed session as authorized by Section 2.2-3711 of the Code of Virginia to discuss 2 personnel matters?
So moved.
Ms. Woods, roll call, please.
Ms. Bond? Mr. Chewbacca? Ms. Franklin?
Yes.
Ms. Graham?
Yes.
Mr. Hudson?
Yes.
Ms. Parton?
Yes.
Ms. Cass?
Yes.
7 in favor.
Motion carries.